A new study reveals over half of organizations have some type of AI or ML project in the works, and three-quarters of those companies plan on doubling the number of projects that they'll be deploying within the next year. Jim Hare with Gartner is an analyst there with us today to talk about this specific study that you guys put together here, Jim. These are pretty significant findings and speak to just how fast AI and ML is moving.
Yeah, I think some of the key takeaways that we found out of the survey was that over half of the qualifying organizations have some type of AI or ML project currently deployed. And three-quarters of those have plans to roll out more projects in the next year, 2 years, and 3 years. In fact, it looks like they're planning almost doubling the number of projects over the coming years, which to us we found pretty profound. And of course, these are organizations that are more on the front line, the leading edge of using AI and ML. They're the ones that are getting the value and have actually cracked the code, as I'll call it. The other things that I think are key takeaways was, well, what's the primary reason that they're wanting to use AI or ML? There's two things that we came out of that. The first one was automating tasks, and the second one was using AI and ML to improve customer experience. This is very consistent with what we've seen before. We're really customer experience, customer engagement, understanding that customer is delivering a much more personalized experience is one of the top reasons. The second is with the automated task is to try to gain more efficiency, both in terms of improving business processes, as well as improving the decision making by the employees of an organization. So those are a couple of the key takeaways we found that I found actually fairly interesting.
And Jim, how broad of a sample did this take into consideration, in terms of the size of the companies involved and also the industries?
Good question. So this was around 100 respondents, and they're members of what we call Gartner Research Circle, which is essentially a set of Gartner clients that have agreed to participate in different surveys. And then what we did is narrowed the scope to say these had to be individuals who responded who are familiar with an organization's AI or ML initiatives, or maybe involved in the process of choosing particular technologies or specific use cases. So that said, of these 100, the mix was actually across the board. In fact, if we look at it, from where they were geographically located, almost half were out of EMEA, 46%, 36% or about a third out of North America, and the remainder were in APAC and Latin America. And then when we look at it from a company size point of view, about 20% were in that 1,000 to 2,000 employee range, and the remainder, with the bulk of them, were in the 2,000 to 10,000. But there were some organizations that responded even less than 100 employees, and then some organizations even had 50,000 employees or more. From an industry perspective, the two primary industries for these organizations were in the government space and manufacturing. And that was 20% for each of those each. And then the services and banking side with like 15 and 14% respectively. And then we did actually have respondents from insurance, retail, and so on. So to me, it was a fairly broad representation, but the bulk of them coming much more from the government and manufacturing side.
Jim, did you guys expect to see a jump this big in terms of the number of companies that are looking to add even more AI projects in the near future?
We did not. So that was one of the things we found fairly profound. Those that cracked the code, those that have actually started deploying AI and maybe have 4 or 5 projects, have figured out now how to scale it and use it in their organizations. And so going from, say, 4 this year all the way to 35, 36 in the next 3 to 4 years, we found pretty amazing.
And Jim, this may be a broad question here, but what is it about AI and ML that is so compelling, or why is it proving to be so beneficial that companies really want to jump on board and put more of these projects into play?
I think the misnomer is people hear the term AI and they think it's going to automatically get rid of people. In other words, it's going to replace what humans are already doing, and hence the reason for the term artificial intelligence. Really should be called augmented intelligence. Most of the value from AI is going to come from using the power of the machines to work alongside individuals to do the things that are tedious and very time consuming, things that can be automated, things that require a lot of number crunching, but then deliver those insights or address some of those mundane tasks to free up the humans to use a lot more of the human power. And so the augmentation of using AI and ML is really where a lot more of the value is going to be delivered.
And as with anything really, the more tailored a program, of course, Jim, the more expensive it is. So we're talking about a really good chunk of change here that's being spent on this technology.
Correct. The more you build a custom solution, one, you have to find the skills, people, to really build and even deploy and manage that on your behalf. So it can be very time consuming, one, finding those resources and really building and deploying those models. I really think people should think about AI as really a spectrum of capabilities that can be packaged in different ways. There'll be some things that you build that are custom, perhaps because again, you can't find an out of the box solution, or you feel it's something you need to own. There's a differentiator for your organization. But for a lot of other users and use cases inside the organization, there's nothing wrong with buying a prepackaged application that already has AI capabilities that can be used to solve a specific discrete problem. And then there's even packaged AI capabilities increasingly being added to enterprise applications such as your ERP or supply chain or CRM applications. So those are AI capabilities baked directly into the business processes. And it's not that one's better than the other. Organizations really need to be thinking about a portfolio of AI capabilities that they'll use inside their enterprises.
Jim, we thank you so much for being with us here to talk about this study. If you want to learn more on it or on artificial intelligence or machine learning, make sure you check out Tech Republic.